good to have you back on the program, and welcome back to the Super Breakfast Show. It's still on. It'll be on for the next hour or so. My name is Obi Ivy. Check that dial. It's 93.3, and it's Super FM Port Harcourt. We are your number one family lifestyle talk and urban radio station. So quickly, 3 minutes gone past 9 o'clock. Let's move on from here now. Once again, for the second week in a row, we are bringing you this program that is a SAID program. It's the popularization of the Rivers State Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. And here we discuss the aims and objectives of the law. And we have resource persons joining us every single time to talk about this particular law. Now, this law was passed in Rivers State in 2020. The program that you're about to listen to is funded by the European Union with technical support from Agents for Change, Agents for Citizens Transformation, and the British Council. And of course, it's the initiative of the Center for Environment, Human Rights and Development, SAID. Now, joining me on the program today is Chief Obari Nanta Obariokpa, and of course the Program Associate, Center for Environment, Human Rights and Development, Obiageli Oraka Oyifore Esquire. Good to have you both join me today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Obi. Good to be back here.
Absolutely. Pleasure is always mine. All right, so let's continue from where we stopped. So over the last few weeks, we have focused on, the law in itself, to describe the law, and we've been looking at the crimes and offenses under this particular VAP law, right? So as we make progress now, where do we move to from here? Innovations about this law, right?
We've done the innovation.
Oh, we have already.
And we have moved to the rights of victims. We are going to be looking at the rights of victims on the VAP law today.
Okay, great stuff. And let's look at what are the rights of the victims under the VAP law?
Thank you so much, Obi. So it's still Obiageli Oraka Oyifore, the Program Associate for Center for Environment, Human Rights and Development. We are back here again today to continue our discussion on VAP law, Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law of Rivers State, which was passed in year 2020, January 2020. Like Obi already said, we started the conversation around the introduction of the law itself. For a reminder, we stated that Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law is a law to prohibit, to eliminate all forms of violence against persons, whether they are happening in private or they are happening in public, to also give remedies to victims of this violence and to punish offenders and other related matters. So we talked about this. We talked about the crimes envisaged under this law. We talked about innovation, what makes the law thick, because everybody is confirming, attesting to the fact that this law is so needed in our river society today, and we try to look at why. So we finished that last week, Friday. Today we are commencing the new session on rights of victims under VAP law. What are these rights that this law is here to uphold, to protect, to promote, to also ensure that when a victim is abused, that they will ensure that they are fine in total. So the first right that we'll be looking at is the fundamental human rights as contained in the Constitution.
Okay.
So every victim is still entitled to his fundamental human rights. And this law is very careful to mention that. So we do not begin to think that because someone is a victim, there's a different definition to the person. Victim is you, could be me. victim is primarily a human being, so his fundamental human rights must be primarily, noted, upheld. So we see these rights in section 36, part 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We know that the highest form of right any human being can enjoy is the right to life.
Right.
So every victim is entitled to his or her right to life. But beyond right to life, there's another right that I think is the next biggest right to life. That is the right to dignity of human person. Right to dignity of human person. Everybody deserves
All right, welcome back.
So this is the difference between human beings and maybe a sane human being and someone who is not sane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the right to be treated with dignity. I believe that if you take away this right from someone, that person is reduced to less than human being.
Right.
Because it's very important that we understand that this is very critical, especially when it comes to emotional rights.
Yeah.
That's why you see people who have been treated in a debased manner, they begin to reason and function like they are less of humans. So this is also part of it. That's why we are very careful to keep emphasizing on the fact that emotional and verbal abuse are very dangerous abuse of human. So, but beyond this, we know the rest of the other rights, etc., etc. So long as you're a Nigerian, you have the freedom of opinion, freedom political participation, you have freedom, so many other freedom, they're all there. Okay, so beyond that, we also have other rights that are contained in regional, international human rights frameworks and instruments. So we have especially socio-economic rights, right to economic survival, etc., etc. Rights. If you some of those instruments we can see rights of African women, protocol on the rights of African women, etc., etc. The International Covenant on the Rights of Child. So many of them. Social covenants on socio-economic rights, and socio-political rights, etc., etc. These rights were also, the victim is also part and parcel of, just laying the foundation. All right. Then there's also so many other laws that are operational in Nigeria that are called rights to Nigerians and victims beyond the Constitution. So the Constitution being the root, there are branches that are springing up. One of those rights you can also see in the Child Rights Act or law of Rivers State, and some of those laws also that ban harmful traditional practices because they know that they violate the right of and dignity of widows and etc., etc. Then you have also the VAP law itself, which is the main thing we are talking about today, where the law itself accords victims so many rights, either the right as human or rights to remedy when they are abused. So that is what we are going to be concentrating on under this segment. So let us start with the right to just a minute, because I want to run through them. I really need to run through them so we get all completely. So let's start with the right to medical care, which is contained in section 36A of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law, Lagos State. So this section 36A is telling you that when abuse occurs and there's a need for medical care, the victim has this right. Once the person gets to the police station, the next step that should be taken is for the person to be referred and transported to the closest medical center where they can either run tests or to obtain medical treatment. That's the first right after fundamental rights under Constitution. The next right is right to psychological support. This will come in form of assurances of safety, counseling, or therapy, still under the section 36A of the VAP law. So you discover that sometimes when issues of abuse come up, and we just think that we take the physical care of the person involved, sometimes harm goes beyond physical harm. There could be psychological harm, emotional harm. That's where this kind of remedies come in. They are professional counselors. They are also people, by virtue of their profession, that they are able to offer some sort of counseling to alleviate emotional damage that occurred because of the abuse. So the law is saying that this is also the right of a victim. So the police and the service providers will, as a matter of necessity, take note of this people that provide psychosocial support, so they can ensure that the victim enjoys this right. So beyond that, you also have the right to social support. This social support, most of the times, come in form of shelter, safe space. They call it safe space. They call it safe shelter. All right. Under the Act, under the law, it is safe shelter. Section 36A insists that when someone is being abused, it is of paramount importance to isolate the person from the environment of abuse. So the victim has this right, be it a spouse, be it a ward, be it a child, so long as that environment is no longer conducive because of the abuse that is ongoing in that environment. It is very critical that the people who are handling the case isolate the person, because that is a right of victim under the VAP law. So you also have the right to legal assistance, such as pro bono services. We know that there's legal aid, the government-funded legal aid, okay, which is part and parcel of the Ministry of Social Justice. So there's that ministry there's that legal aid, but we also know that the staff capacity might not be able to take care of all the legal needs that the population of Nigeria is massive, poverty is massive. So many people need legal aid, ignorance, illiteracy, so it will be draining on them. So there are so many other organizations, NGOs that support in this area. You have primarily FIDA, International Federation of Women Lawyers, they are there. You also have the African Women Lawyers Association that came up in the recent times. They also assist in this field. And other human rights organizations, even said, is doing their bit, but in partnership with people who can provide these legal services, So even some NGOs might even outsource the services to a legal practitioner, a private legal practitioner, just to ensure that justice is done to victims. People have benefited immensely from this. So it is up to the police and up to the service providers to ensure that they take note of the organizations that offer this kind of services, so that when the need arises, you don't begin to run helter-skelter or let the victim off the hook because you do not know where to source for this kind of help. Sometimes a victim watching to see that a perpetrator has accounted for his or her crimes, abuse against the victim is a very big solace, is a very big relief, is a very big source of healing, emotional healing. For yes. So it is also very important that we undertake this particular step in order to reduce the number of menace in the society, because accountability is also a very big step towards eradicating crime in the society. People continue to perpetrate injustice and
because
abuses.
No one is held accountable.
Yes, because they are let off the hook, because they are not accountable. For example, like these sexual offenses that you discover that most rapists had raped in the past. If they were checked from the first time they did that, there wouldn't have been repeats. Also, their friends would have watched them and desisted from such steps, because now they know that they cannot go scot-free, So that is why it is very important to toe this part. Legal assistance is also not just a matter of kindness to the victim. It's a right. It's an obligation that the state and the service providers and the police owe victims under the VAP law. Beyond that, we also have the right to information. This one, the service providers and the police, they have a huge role to play here. They need to inform the victim of all the rights and remedies and everything, steps that they have to take, even whether it be it in reporting, whether be it in medical care, social psychological support, etc., etc. The legal support I talked about, even how to proceed to obtaining court orders, etc., etc. Even information regarding safe space that are available for them to migrate to, if it is necessary. They have the right to know these things. So it's the right to information, especially regarding to reporting, protection, redress for offenses under the law. This is section 36B of the VAP law itself, talks about this right to information. Then also, the law specifically demands that there be alternative accommodation in cases of domestic violence. It's not a favor. It is a right to isolate these people, from that environment. Not only that, beyond isolation from environment abuse, if a man feels that the wife is, that's alternative accommodation, let me put it that way. If he feels that, okay, this house can't contain us anymore, he can go and rent a house. While with FIDA, we've watched that happen. The man says, okay, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. Or the woman says, okay, we have kids, but I can't stay under his roof anymore because the abuse is too much. The victim has that right to alternative accommodation. The man can rent a place for the wife and the family while they sort out their differences. Because sometimes in marriages, it is not just waking up and asking for divorce. There are processes. Sometimes it is just something that separation can do. It's a wound that separation can heal. They take time to analyze, reflect on the union so far, and decide if divorce is the path they want to toe, or they want to come back and rebuild their union. Yes. So that alternative accommodation in cases of domestic violence is a right under section 29(2)(c) of VAP law. And then the temporary relocation to a safe place that I talked about under the same section 29(2)(d). Then there's also provision of emergency monetary relief.
Okay.
Yes, under section 29(4), such as feeding and child support.
If both parties are not together anymore.
Yes, in case there's a deep acrimony that has led to separation, and most of the times we know who lives with the children. It is the woman, or who is abandoned with the children. Like if it's a rented apartment, the guy can wake up one day and move out with his things, go rent another place. and the woman begins to suffer with the children, even to the point sometimes of homelessness. Yeah. So this particular law says that the person who has been a benefactor of the other party in a civil union has that right to emergency monetary support. So if you are the breadwinner in a family, whether you're the woman or you're the man, but you're the breadwinner, you do not wake up and walk away and abandon people. It's abandonment. It's a crime under VAP law. It's a big offense. So the court can make such order. Police officers in the course of mediation could advise that this happens, or the Ministry of Social Welfare, or whichever human rights organization that is intervening. So, but if this fails, the victim can still proceed to the court to get the protection order to this effect.
All right.
So,
yes. If you've just tuned in, if you've just joined us, this is the popularization of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law of Rivers State, a law passed in 2020, and it is brought to us by the Center for Environment, Human Rights and Development, said as funded by the European Union, of course, with technical support from Agents for Citizens Transformation and the British Council. All right, I want to ask Chief Obari, how do victims fare? What is the angle? Because, oftentimes the law says one thing, but tradition and our culture say a separate thing. How does what's the angle of the traditional rulers? What do you think about victims' rights under the VAP law?
Once again, good morning. I'm a Chief Obari Nanta Obarokba, a traditional ruler from Alesa community, precisely Kolope community, and a member of Alesa Council of Chief in Alesa clan in Ileme AGA. Like the right and how the victims feel, most time the women are the most people who are victims most time. Now, they were always deprived from their right most time. And I think this law is going to help and normalize things.
Okay.
I can say it from my own experience. I was born to meet a property owned by my father.
Okay.
Before I was born. And when the man died, we were living on exile in our own very community. And this property was occupied by my uncles. It take a time, it take a war when we were grown up to even claim this thing back. So, assuming our mothers did not have such or have male child, by now, I don't know. So, this law will help women, will help families, build them together, because the women have suffered a lot during the loss of their husband and other relatives.
Okay, well said. So it's a good thing that even our traditional rulers are in acceptance of this particular law. Barrister Obiageli, just make progress and then try and see how we can wrap up, because our time is already far spent as it is.
thank you so much, Obi, and thank you for our in-house chief today. I feel like giving you a round of applause. Indeed, we pray that other traditional rulers will begin to have this kind of mindset. Patriarchy is not totally bad, but those abusive aspects of patriarchy has to die for the society to emerge. Absolutely. And begin to, all genders begin to fulfill their duty, adding to the growth of the society. Yes, so we proceed with the other right is child custody. I'll try to run through. I have been warned. So child custody is the next right under VAP law, section 29(7). where couple, when they have children and they separate, we do not need to begin to turn the children are already victim, because children are meant to grow under the shelter and supervision of both parents. By separating, there are so many deprivations they are going through already.
Yeah.
So you do not need to also complicate things for them by depriving them. Your couple are fighting. The children are not fighting with their parents. So deal with your differences, but do not extend that to the children. Each party have the right to, be with their children. The best party to be with the children, if they are minor, is the mother. If they are minor, the mother should take custody while the father supports financially and in other areas, except when it is in the opinion of the courts or people intervening that the mother is actually not the best person to have custody because of antecedents, character deficiencies, etc., or work commitments. If it's a mother who is always in the air, always traveling, never around, so it won't be in the best interest of the children to hand over such children to them. Stability is the consideration, yes, and availability of the caring party. So child custody is also a right, assuming in cases where men have thrown away wives and insist you will not have access to these children, the court can intervene to restore child custody to the best party.
Okay.
So the other one is state rehabilitation and reintegration program.
Okay, so now this is the one we'll have to carry over to next week. I need to take it down so that we don't forget it. Say that again, please.
Right to state rehabilitation and reintegration programs.
Okay, rehabilitation and reintegration
programs.
Okay.
So there are indeed so many others. It means that we are doing 2 sessions of rights.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
But I think we've come a bit far.
Yes, we have tried.
This is a big progress,
especially because we didn't allow the calls to interrupt the flow.
Okay, so I do not know. Should I go on or should I pause it here?
Yes, we have to continue tomorrow. We do. But thank you very much, Obiageli Oyifore, Oraka Oyifore,
yes.
Esquire, the Program Associate, Center for Environment, Human Rights and Development, said. And of course, Chief Obari Nanta Obarikba, thank you very, very much, sir.
Thank you, too.
And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow, ma'am, and to continue in this conversation.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate the time.
Pleasure is ours. All right, so you've heard from the program. It's a popularization of the Rivers State Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law passed in 2020, a program funded by the European Union with technical support from the Agents for Citizens Transformation and the British Council, brought to us by the Center for Environment, Human Rights and Development, CERD. Okay, now quickly, I'll just give you the number to call just in case you are a victim of violence, whatever kind, or you know someone who's dealing with that. Simply call the number 0800 2000 500. It's a toll-free number, so you do not pay when you call the number. Many thanks indeed for listening, and we'll continue with this conversation tomorrow. But for now, we have a program coming your way. We're interviewing the new chairman of the conscious leader of the conscious of Ogoni people. Yes, and that's Gani Toba. He's joining me on the program today. The chairman of Ogoni/Asa Imo River OML 11 oil producing communities. Chief Gani Toba, leader and spokesperson of the conscience of Ogoni people. And of course, as I said, he's the chairman of Ogoni Asa Imo River OML 11 oil producing communities. He's going to join me any moment now. Don't change the dial. Super 93.3 FM, Port Harcourt.
On air and online, this is Super FM, Nigeria's #1